Welcome to the first ever episode of the Juke podcast featuring Dr. Jen Welter. We are here to break down the NFL in a way that you have never heard. Jen, I know you want to make your introduction. Here we go.
Dr. Jen Welter here, and I have a secret weapon. Did you know? Did you know I have?
I did not know. Who's your secret weapon?
My secret weapon, the best coach around, the one who makes me better every single day. That's right, Tyson, the magic chihuahua. I'm telling you, when that tongue comes out, you already know he's got a lot on his mind and he is ready to break it down. And, he is the real MVP of this, of this coaching duo. I mean, clearly, who doesn't love it? But I mean, everybody needs to know Tyson because he whispered.
He's the one. He's the one that strikes fear into the opponent's hearts. Just look at that. Look at that game face he has.
Game face is strong on this one. Strong, Tyson. Tyson, you got the game face, buddy. Yeah, he's got the game face. So, if you've got me, he is clearly the better end of this duo. Oh my gosh, we must be at, is that it? Oh yeah, he said that's it. That's all we paid for. We don't have the budget to keep him on camera much longer than that. So Tyson is out. He has graced us with his presence. All right, buddy.
I really wanted to hear Tyson's thoughts about Dak Prescott.
Oh, Tyson has lots of thoughts about Dak Prescott. He's already given them to me though, so I think we should.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah,
all good then.
He did. He actually, I think, what was it you said about Dak Prescott? You wanted to know if the money was justified.
Yeah, is the money justified for Dak Prescott, the new franchise quarterback for Jerry Jones Cowboys?
Yes, the money is justified. They should have paid Dak last year. To be perfectly honest, the only money that I think might be a little bit funny is that Zeke money, honey.
Okay.
Look,
you think that we can move off Zeke?
No, I don't think we need to move off Zeke, but I don't think that I would have paid my quarterback before I would have paid the running back. And frankly, he gave me a little pause with the belly shirt. Like, what are you investing all this money in? If you can't even afford a full shirt, then why do we have to pay you all this money? I would have paid the quarterback first. That's what I'm saying about it. Because in terms of the longevity of the franchise, right? Quarterbacks have a much longer lifespan, right? You need to build around your quarterback, and your running back, they tend to be shorter, right? Like not shorter just in height, right? But shorter in terms of the length of time that they really can impact a franchise, and you kind of need to be able to move away from them if they've taken too much of a beating. And last year, when we didn't have Dak, and we did have Zeke, what was he doing for that team?
Yeah, I think we saw in 2020 that Zeke significantly fell off without Dak, of course, and the team fell off without Dak. I feel like a lot of NFL Nation, the fans out there, didn't actually realize how good Dak is, an upper echelon quarterback, until he got hurt, which kind of sucks.
Well, he is an upper echelon quarterback, but there were a lot of things that went on with that Cowboys team last year, right? The defense. Well, for a long time, I said there was no D in Dallas, right? Like there was just defense, right? There wasn't a defense. Defense was like a swinging gate most of the time. So that was really problematic. The O-line was not at the full strength that it was, which obviously we saw impacted not only Dak, but Zeke as well. So there was a whole lot that needed to change with the Cowboys. I will be interested to see what this new defense looks like under new leadership, but I am glad that Dak got paid. I think it is long overdue. I just hope all his rehab goes well.
What do you say to the people that say he might be overpaid, $40 million, second only behind Patrick Mahomes per year? They're never going to be able to build a team around him. What do you say to those people?
I say, have you ever tried to win a game without a quarterback? Ooh, let's look at the Denver Broncos last season.
Ooh.
Right? Let's look at the game when they had no quarterback, right? So let's really look at the fact that we do need to have a quarterback to be in that franchise. And you also know this, right? Teams have a way of moving money when they structure contracts, but they needed to get Dak, they needed to get him secure, and they needed to build the rest of the team around him. I just hope that they invest in the O line to get it back to when the Dallas Cowboys offense was really humming. Because when Zeke was good, hey, guess what? By the way, it was because of O line.
Yes, I would expect Dallas to take a heavy look at the defense during free agency, especially with Dan Quinn now running it. You could see some of his former players, Keanu Neal, Richard Sherman, maybe those guys coming into the secondary. They need help there. Offensive line wise, like you said, Tyron Smith should be back. Collins should be back at tackle, so they should be looking good there in Dallas. There's another quarterback, Russell Wilson, who may have a little drama in Seattle. What are your thoughts about that whole situation?
Last year we said let Russ cook, and right now something's cooking. And when there's smoke, there's fire, right? Um, Last year was not a great year for the Seattle Seahawks. I know from a defensive perspective, I'm saying, hey, I'm a D line coach, and you should never have a secondary guy leading your team in sacks. Yes, Jamal Adams is special. But when he's leading the team in sacks, I have a problem because I'm going to my D line room and going, really? Seriously? Seriously? This is what you got? Because unless Russ is cooking and firing on all cylinders at all times in all games, you're not going to win the season like that. And we saw that they struggled. So I don't feel like they've had enough around Russ, right? It shouldn't just be Russ cooking. It should be like, hey, what is the team doing? And I would be frustrated with him. Now, do I want to get away from a Metcalf? No, because that guy's a beast. But if for him to have said something after all this time, it really does seem to me like there's more behind the scenes. Now, it could be a bargaining tactic. It could be like, I just want you to know that, like, I'm not always going to be the guy who's just happy at all times. But, I do have to believe that is a bit frustrating. What do you think?
I believe that Russell Wilson is looking at everybody else. He's judging himself next to Tom Brady. He's judging himself next to Aaron Rodgers and being like, I want to be in that top 5. I want to be in that top 10. There's reports that he's been saying that. I don't know how real that is, but Russell Wilson is a guy that, of course, he's been awesome. And I would argue it's been more Russell Wilson than Pete Carroll over the last few years because that defense has fallen off a little bit since the Legion of Boom. But you're right. The main thing seems to be that he wants more protection. He doesn't want to get sacked. That's at least what has been leaked out there. But I think the defense is the main priority. They just released Carlos Dunlap. They need help with the pass rush there.
Yeah, we need some pass rush, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. That's what I talk about. And for me, it's all about the trenches, right? Can you protect your quarterback, and can you get after the other quarterback? If we can win those battles, then we can do a lot of other things. But if you're not getting after the quarterback, then that means Russ has to outpass everybody. And that means he has to be protected. And we didn't have either of those for the Seahawks last year. Now, I am going to correct one thing, though, because I don't really like is it a quarterback versus a coach? Because they work hand in hand, right? Like, they always go together. So I don't, it's like that Belichick Brady argument. Well, yeah, Brady is who he is, but a lot of that came up through a Belichick system. So it's not a fair thing to just separate and say, oh, which one was it? Because would he have been that guy if he had not had that system around him, if he had not had those draft picks around him, if he had not had, that tutelage built into him? But yes, part of him being that guy is the competitive nature that he brought to work every day and his ability to bring everybody up around him. So, I think we got to look at them together as part of it. And yeah, you might get divorced at some point, but you never actually erase that marriage that you were in before, even if you might want to.
Right. I think with the Seattle fans, they're all saying, well, he's a defensive coach. What's wrong with your defense? And the offense has stayed stagnant. Their scheme hasn't evolved. They run the ball and they don't, put the ball in Russell Wilson's hands. They're their best player. I think that's where all of that comes from with Russell Wilson. I think he's starting to buy into it. My question to you is, in the locker room, if you were another coach or another player, that maybe doesn't really know what's going on. What are you thinking behind the scenes?
Well, the truth is that you do know what's going on, right?
Okay.
Like you've seen it, you've been around it, and there's a difference between knowing what's going on and what the public gets to know, right? For it to have made it out into mainstream media, this has been going on for a long time behind the scenes. So I don't buy that his teammates are wondering. His teammates are picking up the phone like, dude, what's up? Or his teammates are like, man, I'm glad you finally said something. Or, yeah, we need to get you some help. So I don't really believe that there are quote unquote secrets like that. Now, they obviously may not know everything that's going on in the front office or what moves they're going to make, because that is the stuff that's really you know beyond kept beyond like locking, under super secret. Nobody knows what their draft boards look like, nobody knows
Yeah.
what their targets look like in free agency. And yes, teams will bait stuff out there just to get a response or to put a competitor down, kind of a rabbit hole in the wrong direction. So, what I would say is the teammates know what's going on with Russ. What they don't know is what the response from the front office / coaching staff will be. But those guys, yeah, they know.
Seahawks have KJ Wright, Shaq Griffin, and Chris Carson all as free agents. We'll have to see what they do in free agency to surround or to not surround Russell Wilson.
Pass rush. Hashtag D line. Hashtag get after the quarterback. Hashtag I heard that Shaq Barrett is hitting the open market, and that's a big, big, big target of mine. That dude can go. You need a dog up front. Like you need some dogs. Like I haven't seen any dog from the Seahawks except for Jamal Adams. And that again is a fundamental problem to me, right? But if you're going to run like a Legion of Boom, you
Right.
need some guys who are actually bringing the boom, right? We may just have the Legion right now, but it's more like the Foreign Legion that it is the Legion of Boom.
Yeah.
They're not striking.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time since we saw Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill there in Seattle. There's another quarterback as well. The player empowerment's taking over the NFL. Deshaun Watson wants his way out. Now, we're hearing that the Texans don't even want to trade him, but it does not appear that Deshaun wants to play there. What are your thoughts on Deshaun?
All right. So clearly, with everything you've seen from the Texans organization, this is not new, right? We are not seeing something that just happened. But you had the ultimate Texan, J.J. Watt, leave, right? This is the guy that, probably has Texans tattooed on his body and, has fundraised, millions and millions of dollars for the city of Houston because his heart was there. But that team has been not right for a while, right? And so to have guys like JJ Watt, to have guys like Z Hop, to have guys like Deshaun basically be done, and then have the leadership change over and not have the conversations with the leaders of the locker room of what needs to change. That's what we're seeing right now. And so I'm not surprised that there's a big divide because they never made an effort to mend fences, right? There have been problems there for a while, and we've yet to figure out how to bring it back together. And saying that you're not even going to entertain talks, what good does that do, right? What does that do for showing the importance of your quarterback? Now, I would love to see if they've reached out to Deshaun and maybe or may not, maybe have or have not been able to see if there is, a fence to be mended. But for Cesario to say he won't even entertain calls, and as we know, there have supposedly been teams who have called and left messages and not getting any call back or any of that, what? Right? What? And how does that work? Right? That's what I go. It's but wait, right? But if they're going to keep him there, and they're going to force him to play. Um, what I've heard is that he may force it and he may sit out for a year. And then neither are you getting anything for Deshaun, nor will you have a quarterback on the field. So that situation is going to have to break. Either that or you're going to have to see the Texans take a young quarterback in the draft, which also is a really interesting thing. Can you afford to hold on to that? Or sorry, can you afford to hold on to Deshaun and not have him on the field? Now that's a really expensive proposition.
Yeah. Nick Casario basically came into the most difficult situation in the NFL. He has a very difficult decision on his hands. The Miami Dolphins have been rumored as potentially a landing spot. Carolina Panthers have been rumored. The Jets. Where do you feel if he were to get traded would be the best spot for Deshaun Watson?
If I'm Deshaun Watson and I have the ability to do that, the Dolphins are interesting because obviously they've put a lot of things in place to be a big team,
Yeah.
to be a good team. I think that they're close. Um, what team has the draft capital to be able to do it, or the trade value and the cap space to be able to do it?
Miami has the draft capital and a good amount of space, so it does logically make sense. And
Miami would be one
Carolina.
of the top destinations for me because you see what they were able to do with Ryan Fitzpatrick
Yep.
in terms of how close that team got. The only time they really got derailed to me was when they felt the need to go to Tua, which I wouldn't have done. Um, but we're sitting here and saying which teams could afford to make big moves with big quarterbacks. I mean, what if Deshaun Watson ends up in Seattle?
Oh,
Would Russell Wilson go to Houston? Because if I'm Russ, I wouldn't. I would not.
yeah.
I would not want to go to that. But you got to think about which teams would have the big, hey, this could be a 1-for-1. But if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm saying don't send me into that situation either.
Personally, my dream trade would put Deshaun Watson in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan, and I think we're talking about football magic. That's me personally. While all these other quarterbacks are talking about, I want to be traded, Tom Brady's sitting back with another Super Bowl. He's sitting back here. We've got Chris Godwin on the franchise tag. We brought back Levante David. But now there's rumors that he also wants OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. Do you buy into these rumors? What would it be like for Beckham and Brady to team up in Tampa Bay?
Um, I think hopefully Brady would be a stabilizing force on Beckham. Um, as he was able to be with AB.
Yeah,
Because that leadership and holding somebody to a higher standard, OBJ you won't be the biggest star on this team.
right.
And that's something that I think you need because the Browns actually got better when they were forced to move the ball around with OBJ being out of the equation, and they were able to go to their strength, which was really the run game. But the Browns were relatively one dimensional when it was like the OBJ show. If TB does want OBJ in TB, then OBJ is going to have to realize it's not all about him, right? You have Gronk, you have Godwin. Do you still have Antonio Brown? I don't really know. But you have lots of weapons, and it's not going to be all about you. And you know that would be an interesting kind of stabilizing force. But do the Buccaneers have the dollars to be
I don't know.
bring in OBJ, right? Like, and does it even make sense? Because if it's me, I don't really feel the need to have OBJ. I feel the need to protect Tom Brady. I feel the need to pass rush. I'm looking more to secure Shaquille Barrett than I am to bring in OBJ, who, is up and down. And yes, he is a great receiver, but if you can get AB for the price tag that you got AB, then do you really need OBJ? Because you sure don't want AB and OBJ, right? That's like bad reality television in the making.
Possibly. I think the only real situation it would happen, it would have to do with some way, some form Chris Godwin leaving. He was franchise tagged, So they currently have him under contract, but we know that the franchise tag can, be maneuvered, be traded, whatever. That would be the only way pretty much
Godwin's
possible.
not going anywhere. Why would you
And
leave? Why would you leave a Super Bowl team?
right, of
Right?
course.
And one that is primed to do it again if you can keep enough of the pieces in. And they did make a commitment and said we like you by giving him the franchise tag, right? Basically they said we are seriously dating and we're going for a run again, right? We're engaged but we're not married, right? But we're going for a run again and we want you to be a part of that run, right? So I'm not, if I'm Chris Godwin, I'm not going anywhere because I want to be on that team. I want to be part of going for another Super Bowl, which I believe we can do if we can keep enough people. And they probably had that conversation as well.
Meanwhile, in Cleveland, Baker Mayfield seeing UFOs. I know you love Baker Mayfield, so give me your thoughts on Baker potentially seeing a UFO.
Baker, the commercial maker, has actually, he must have a new plan, right? Like I'm thinking remake of E.T.
Okay.
with Baker reaching out like ET phone home. I mean, maybe Baker has like invested in Reese's, right? Like maybe he's gonna leave. I mean, they are actually kind of Cleveland Browns colors, right? So maybe Baker was leaving trails of Reese's outside of his house so that the UFOs would realize that they too were at home with Baker Mayfield. What do you
I
think?
like that take. I think that's a unique take. We have not heard that. That's what you're going to hear on the Juke from here on out. This is episode 1.